Yeah, so just get started with name, age, and where you're from.
Name is Uriah Bentic, originally from Trinidad and Tobago. 30, age 30 at the moment. I started the soccer program a little over probably 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we met in the spring of 2011.
Correct. And probably before that, obviously you're back at Liberty. It's been so long now. Yeah, but we met and you were part of the staff as part of the soccer team at Liberty. So I think so it's been 8 years. Yeah.
It's been a while.
A long time.
It's crazy how much has happened since then.
Correct. It's a lot of highs and lows. I know we did some summer camps with Adam Godwin, and we had obviously you traveled with us, the soccer team. So yeah, a lot of different experiences. Yes.
So some between my academy players and my college guys, they were kind of wondering about your experience growing up and how much you played and how family atmosphere played a role in that. Everything but like before your Liberty days.
Right. Got introduced to the sport by watching my dad play. So on Sunday evenings they would have the adult league, and I'll just go and sit, watch him. Actually, sometimes they would actually allow me to play a bit. And so that was my introduction to the sport. It's back in Trinidad. That's a sport. It's either you're playing soccer, we call it football back in Trinidad. The other sport, a bit of track and field, but for the most part, when you're young, soccer, football is a sport to play. I mean, you play with your friends, with your cousins. I remember going to school. We would go to school early, play soccer before school starts, recess, lunch, after school. It was a natural thing to do, I guess. Played high school, played for my club, Trinidad Hawks, coach by the name of Anthony Wickham. He was the one that sought me out. I was playing like a 5v5 tournament in my community. He invited me to his team at the age of 8 or 9. I joined his team and I actually stayed with that team for quite a bit, probably 7 to 8 years. We traveled to Canada, we played in the league there. After that, I played high school for St. Anthony's, got selected on the youth national team. That process was kind of difficult as well. I went to the open tryouts, didn't make it the first time, and then I tried the second or the third time. They selected a pool of players, like 40 players in the country, and so we kept training, and that number eventually trimmed down to the U20 World Cup roster, which was a 22-man squad. And just to finish up, after that, I got recruited by Liberty University 2008 into 2009. Yeah.
Which coach found you?
Where?
Which Liberty coach?
Liberty. So it's Coach Jeff Orler. He was the one that initially expressed interest. Funny enough, my buddy from Trinidad, he was in contact with Liberty first, and he was kind of he was a big help in my recruiting process. So he actually, I believe, sent a video footage of one of the goals that I scored with my national team when we played Mexico in the U20 World Cup qualifiers. And so he sent the video over to Liberty, and that was kind of the catalyst to eventually make it to the Liberty squad. Yeah.
I didn't meet you as a freshman, at least not. We didn't know each other that well.
Right.
And because I transferred in from Chowan. But tell me about your playing time and how you worked your way in to getting a lot of accolades by the time you were done at Liberty.
It's to be honest. It was funny because growing up in Trinidad, I think we actually came over a year or two later than the people from, I guess, the U.S. citizens for the most part. So my freshman year, I was already either 19 or 20, whereas some of the other freshmen, they were like 18, 19 out of high school. So the level wasn't the level was good, but it wasn't too difficult for me. I knew I was able to compete, especially off the back of the World Cup. I had that momentum going into my first year, and so the transition for me wasn't that difficult. My other roommate, who I mentioned earlier, he struggled a bit, but in general, he actually eventually got part of the consistent squad. But like I said, for me, it wasn't a big transition because I played it so much, and especially since I played that tournament right before my freshman year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it like when you won the conference championship? What was that feeling?
That was good. It's that year was a special year. So my junior year, 2011, was especially because we played the likes of UVA, we played UNC. We had a very good team, guys from Canada, Colombia, Ghana, and we had a very good unit that year. So to go on to win the conference championship with those guys, it was something special. Our freshman year we lost in the final. Sophomore year we didn't do quite as well, and so to have those guys who went through the highs and lows and almost get in the freshman year to finally celebrate together as a unit in 2011 was something special.
I remember I was at the UVA game,
Right.
and being someone from this area,
Right.
I'm a UVA fan. And after we beat them 2-0, I remember the next day in the film session, Dean Short showed the clip of me recording the film and then dropping the camera, jumping up, celebrating.
Excitement, yes.
An excitement that, that we had just beat UVA.
Exactly.
I was ecstatic.
It was an experience because even before the game started, we were fully aware that Liberty played UVA, I think was 18 or 19 times and never got the win. So to get that victory at their place, it was something special. And then we went on to win the conference championship and played in the NCAA tournament for the first time. For me, it was fun. It's a good year.
So I stepped away from the program after that year to focus on trying to graduate on time after transferring and everything. Tell me about your process after your time was up at Liberty in regards leading up to the draft. What kind of conversations did you have with Coach Alder? Did you have an agent at that time? Were you talking to MLS or USL teams?
And my wife could probably attest to this. I was really considering to go professional even before I finished college, to be very honest. Especially after the World Cup, I had agents reaching out to me and I didn't sign with anyone. So I said, I'm going to do the college, I'm going to get my education, make sure I have my degree. And so I knew of agents before finishing college, but I didn't commit to anyone as yet. So after my senior year, I eventually signed with a guy from Boston, and he took care of the behind the scenes stuff in terms of communicating with MLS and the different teams. I didn't have any direct contact with any of the teams. My job was to make sure I had a good highlight reel, to be honest. I had to actually manually get all the game footage and try to trim it down into a 3 or 4 minute video of my time at Liberty to send it out to either the scouts or the MLS teams. So that was the process in terms of after my playing days at college, transitioning into the professional realm. It was, like I said, my agent did the communication part and I did the video footage.
I think that's underrated. It's something that I noticed working with a lot of coaching at a junior college myself, and having to promote players on, or as we both have an academy working with high schoolers, like they don't understand how important a highlight film is.
Oh yes, it puts you, it gives you a step in the door, to be honest. It's something where the coaches can see the player even before they actually meet the player. And so that gives them a good sense of, okay, their strengths, their weaknesses. So yeah, it's invaluable, very invaluable, yeah.
So you were taken in the supplemental draft by the Philadelphia Union. What was the experience with them like?
It was good. It was a shock to be at that. at that facility and that environment with, seasoned pros. I remember watching guys like Shannon Williams, Raymond Gaddis, those guys that you're seeing on TV while you're at college, and now you're in the locker room and you're probably sharing a Gatorade snack bar, or you're rubbing shoulders with these guys that you're seeing on TV. So it was exciting. At the same time, it was challenging. Not knowing what the coach's thought process was in terms of their selection process. For me, it was difficult with my selection. I got selected as, to me, it was a left back. I played 4 different positions in college. I played a bit in the attacking left side. I played left back. I played center defensive mid, and I also played center back my sophomore year. So I knew beforehand they were, in my opinion, drafting me to play a defensive position. But when I got there, there were like 4 different other guys that was playing my position. Some seasoned pros. They had signed another international guy that played a similar position. So it was difficult mentally not to have that, that reinforcement from either colleagues or coaches in terms of it was such a new environment that I had to prove myself once again. And that was a challenge for me. I knew I had the skills, and I knew I had the ability to compete at that level, but the confidence aspect of it was a struggle. Like I said, just coming into a new environment and having to prove myself all over again.
I feel like that's something that we have to live with though.
Yes.
For a long time. And
Right.
I know we're gonna elaborate on that more soon here.
Yeah.
So obviously that didn't work out with the Union. What was it? 2012.
Yeah. So I finished college. I finished college 2012, and so my first year as a professional was 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then where did you move on from the Union since that didn't work out?
Yeah. So I spent a week up in Philadelphia. We did a bit of training, did some fitness exercise, even strength and conditioning. Did a bit of Pilates and core work. So it was good. Even though I didn't make the roster, it was definitely a good experience to see what that type of environment requires on the field, the diet, like I said, the training, the recovery. So I spent a week there. Mentioned to my agent I didn't make the final roster, and so he reached out to. He mentioned different tryouts in Charlotte, and that probably took a 5 or 2 week period to turn around time. Went to Charlotte. And it didn't quite work out either. I actually thought I played really well, to be very honest. The players gave me good feedback, but my struggle at that time, I won't say a struggle. One of the factors that played a role, I was an international player. I wasn't born in the US, and so teams were only allowed a certain amount of players on their roster that were not US citizens. And so in summary, after the Charlotte tryout, the coach said, if you have to take someone that's taken up an international spot, they have to be like head and shoulders above the rest. So even though I played well, it probably wasn't good enough in his opinion for him to give me an international spot on his team.
Was that demoralizing to have to hear that news?
It woke me up in terms of now I not only have to prove myself, but I have to be something special just because of the limits I have as an international player. I know I saw the guys that were either on the team previously or who attended the tryouts, and with all humility, I knew I could outplay the rest of the guys, but the reality was, I guess their hands were tied in terms of the limit on the international spots. So it was hard to take, yeah. It definitely was a challenge to accept, but at the end of the day, there was nothing I can do about it.
And that was with the Eagles.
Correct.
Now the Independence.
Yes, yes.
So what was the next step after that?
So the next step, I came back to Fredericksburg, just kept training, knowing that the tryout window was still open. And so I traveled down to Wilmington, Wilmington, North Carolina. A 6-hour drive. Sent a video footage that I did for when I left college. And so even before we played, the assistant coach saw me and he's like, "Hey, we saw your footage." And they seemed to welcome me even before I kicked the ball, to be honest. They were from England. And so maybe, I guess, I won't say respect, but maybe they could relate to me a bit more in terms of not being necessarily a US citizen, but also being capable of playing the game. And I mean, his name was Coach Briggs, and I mean, he played at top level in England. So to hear that feedback from him was well received, because obviously he played at Everton or either West Brom or the English league. So it was pretty amazing even to meet him as well. And Wilmington, the first day, we had a double session. So we had a session in the morning, we had lunch, and then we were scheduled to have another one in the afternoon. And after the first session, eating breakfast or eating lunch, the coach called me over to his table, the head coach, Mr. David Irving, and he offered me a contract after the first session. And you know, funny enough, knowing myself, I wasn't fully happy with my performance that morning, but I know I was surprised that he offered me the contract so fast. But at the same time, I was grateful for the opportunity to represent the Wilmington Hammerheads. So
Was that, see, for me, it was a culture shock when I got to Liberty, being from near the Fredericksburg area.
right.
Moving to Wilmington
Mm.
was a big culture shock. It took me months to just get used to being
Right.
there. How was that, moving around as much as you have?
Yeah, it's and a big thanks to my wife, to be honest, in terms of having that support system, and even sometimes when I had to prepare for the next opportunity, like I said before, just continue to practice, continue to stay sharp, because that's part of life as a professional player. Sometimes you just don't know, and I've attended trials that have 50, 70 players, and the coach is only looking for 2 or 3 players to add to their roster. So yes, you can be good, but you have to be exceptional to not only to make a roster, but my goal was to play. I didn't want to just sit on the bench. So the transition to Wilmington, it wasn't as hard. Like I said, I think because the assistant coach gave me that reassurance when I got there for the tryouts, and so I met some of the players, Garrett Evans, William Heaney, and those guys from like Wales and Scotland, and so I think being around other international players helped the transition a lot. And so it was fun. It was a fun experience. I was fresh out of college, and I was signing my first contract. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's still soccer. It's still the sport I grew up enjoying and playing. So knowing that I had that support system with my wife and that reinforcement from the other coaches, now it was time. Okay, now I can play and I could be myself. So it was a bit easier transition at Wilmington.
It's crazy how things work out like that. Like now you're where I'm from, and I'm down in Wilmington where you were.
Exactly.
And both of us wound up at Liberty years ago in different paths.
Exactly.
So tell me how things ended with the Hammerheads and where you moved on from there.
It was a good season. I was playing regularly. I was traveling probably every other weekend. I mean, we traveled to Florida, to LA, to Arizona, Pennsylvania. So it was fun. I was living the dream, I guess. It was enjoyable. The only downside for me at that time was the USL only had 11 or 12 teams, and so compared to now they have like 30 teams now. It's crazy how it expanded. But yeah, back in 2013 they only had 11 or 12 teams. And so the season started in March, and if you didn't make the playoffs, your season is finished in August. And so now it's like, okay, what am I gonna do from September to February? You know, to me, I wanted to play more. I wanted to make my professional life a bit more full time, and so I decided to join the NESL, which extended a bit longer to October, which is obviously better than August in my opinion. So yeah, I decided not to continue playing with Wilmington. Went to the open tryouts at the Carolina Real it was a good experience as well. It was a good experience. I did the tryouts. They didn't answer me back in terms of making a roster or anything. They simply invited me back to preseason, and that was like a 2 or 3 month interval. So the tryouts was in December, and the preseason started in like March.
So you went that long without knowing?
Exactly. And so I'm like, do I risk just going to preseason, or should I consider a tryout at a different club? So yes, I decided to stick to that plan. I was also coaching high school as well while I was playing. So I coached Coastal Christian High School in Wilmington in that transition period. So it kept me active, it kept me within the sport, made some excellent relationships. So that probably also kept me within the North Carolina region.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after your time with the Railhawks, how did that end? And you moved on from Wilmington?
Yeah, so we went into 2014. After the season, it was rough. It was rough with injuries, in playing time. My teammate, who was also the player that played in my position, I mean, not to make any excuses. One, he was good, and secondly, he's been at the club for like 8 years. I think he captained the team and stuff, so it was just hard for me to get playing time. And even at one point, I asked the coach, I was like, okay, what do I need to do to be on the field more? And he simply said, even if I'm not gonna call his name, but he's like, even if the other guy makes a mistake, paraphrasing, he said, I'm gonna trust him still because I know it. And so it was just an uphill battle for me. That I would go to practice, I would stay back late, I'll do the extra work, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to change the coach's mind, because he had his mind set on his, like I said, one of the leaders on the team, essentially. Yeah. So with that, I decided to move back to Trinidad. My U20 coach reached out to me, and so I went back to Trinidad to play for a team called Central FC. That was 2015. Good experience as well. It was good to be back home. We won the Caribbean Cup. That was a qualification process to go into the CONCACAF Champions League, and yeah, we won the tournament. But because of contract issues, I decided not to stay. Yeah.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
So I remember that time frame because
Yeah.
we've stayed in touch
Alright.
through all the years. So what was the next step that you took after you moved back from Trinidad?
Correct. Yeah, so that was a interesting year. That was 2015. Moved back to the US. I reached out to the Richmond Kickers, and I simply asked them. I said, "Can I come and train with the team?" It wasn't an invitation to necessarily make the team. It was just to try out. This was to train, just to keep in shape and be in that environment. And so I got on there. He invited me, and after a week, he said, "Okay, we want to offer you a spot, but it's only going to be open if another guy leaves," because they were in mid-season. I got there, I think, June, and their season ran from March to like September, October. Eventually made a team. It was good. Like I said, it was a fun experience. I played against West Brom from the EPL.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes,
I
yes.
was really disappointed. I was specifically coming from Lynchburg to watch my local club, and
Yeah.
just talked to you about 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. A bunch of guys that I played with high school with, we're gonna go watch that game.
Right.
It got stormed and super delayed,
Right.
so I never made it.
Right.
I decided I'd go look at the results, and sure enough, the only Uriah Bentic that I'll probably ever find anywhere is in the starting lineup.
Yes,
And I was like, what? I was gonna come to that game.
Exactly.
You told me you're a free agent. My local club.
It's crazy. It's crazy how God works. It's crazy. It's That's why I try to stay humble. I know. Mixing the humility with also the work rate, I never really stopped training, and so I'd continue practicing, and so when that opportunity presented itself, it was an opportunity for me to go right back into the swing of things. Started that game. Like I said, it was a good experience. Played the first game for the Kickers in the league against the New York Red Bulls up in New Jersey. So it was good. Very, very good experience. And long story short, we were struggling to make the playoff spot at the end. And we eventually made it, I think the last team that made the playoff. And we didn't quite progress as far. We lost 2-1, I think, against the Charleston Battery, and our season was finished in September. And that was a catalyst to that changed the scope of my life, because that's when I met you. We met after the Richmond season was over. I remember we met at Faith Baptist Field, and we were just talking back and forth. And then you said, hey, why don't you coach kids? I do it right now, and why don't you look into it? And yeah, from that conversation, it went from one kid to the academy right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember I looked back on my phone, and it was back in 2016 when you and I started talking about like coach up and this is, we had already discussed it in person.
Right.
And we just went out there, and I remember we did like a little training session, just you and I,
Right.
out there in the church field. And
Yeah.
it's interesting how both of our lives have kind of just been absorbed by running our own academies now. I know I'm super thankful for it. It's been nice to see the progression that you've done with that.
Right.
So I've been watching as well. You absolutely destroying these adult leagues, and I just think that's absolutely unfair. And then across behind the camera here, I walked in and I'm looking golden boot, and I remember you as a left back. So, and then I see you post a video the other day of you hit like a 25+ yard free kick up there. But how's the academy going, and how because we both worked for Adam Godwin's academy in Lynchburg. You're located here in Fredericksburg.
Right.
I'm located in Wilmington. What have you learned over the years from playing and coaching within the club and high schools here and working for Adam, and how have you implemented that into your own academy?
Good question. It's kind of, it's to be funny how things come full cycle. My biggest challenge was confidence. Like I told you, after getting drafted from college. And so for me, that was the main thing, one of the main things I wanted to focus on with my academy. Obviously improving the player skills, and the second thing is to build their confidence. And it's personal. It's very personal, because I knew how much I struggle, and I know how much further I could have been, or at the same time recognizing my struggle or my difficulty can now be used to someone else's advantage, and now they know, okay, yes, you're going to make a mistake, or yes, you're going to go to a tryouts where there are 40, 60 players, but now can you obviously work to improve your skills, but at the same time have confidence in yourself. Um, Knowing that first of all, God created you and He gave you the ability to do it, and now with the repetition in the training sessions, you should have that confidence that regardless if it's raining, it's if you're playing a different position, um, knowing that you prepare yourself, that should give you a confident, that should give you the momentum and the confidence to approach, like I said, tryouts, a difficult game. Um, and I also want to take it into the school environment where I want the players that I coach to be able to, yeah, the teacher asks a question. I want them to be confident enough to raise their hands or to stand up in class to give the answer, especially if they know it. So just developing the whole player. Like I said, it stemmed personally from my experience, and I use it as the driving force in my academy right now.
I'm very big on like the confidence aspect and,
Right.
and the communication. I want them to carry that into their lifestyle because it's important. I like players that are very vocal in games,
Right.
and I like to see them not demean, but like have effective and productive communication.
Right.
And then I love when I see that carry over to the players and how they speak to their parents
Right.
and how they react to their parents and their coaches. And
Right.
they can carry that into any environment.
Right.
Just life skills that we can teach them
Right.
through our experiences. One of the questions, and I'm sure that you've probably heard this over the years from your players, that one of my college boys wanted me to ask you was, how difficult did you feel it was to go pro? I obviously know from talking to you year
Right.
after year, but and how did you really feel like you found your way? Did it just work out, or did you have to put in a whole lot of extra grind? I guess this question was more right after college, and then like on from there.
It's hard. It's like I said. I'm not just throwing out numbers. I've literally been to tryouts where there were so many players that they had like 2 full games going. So that's 44 players right there, and then then there were guys at the side, and they also had an evening session. So we are talking at least like 70, 80 players in the trial. So it's hard because there are a lot of talented players. A lot of talented players, so you have to, there's not an easy answer. And there are no shortcuts. I don't think things happen by chance. Obviously, it's good to have relationships with different coaches. For example, if you grew up in an area and the community offers a program that have college showcase or professional combines, by all means attend it, because at the very least you're going to put your name out there. But when it comes down to it, it's a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work, doing extra. For me, I watch the game, analyze the game. Even when I'm playing, I'll watch the different professional leagues. I'll rewind the footage, see where the non-kicking foot was, see the runs that the players are making on the ball, what type of full touch they took. So I do it. I wouldn't do it. I approach my soccer in full time. So even if I'm not playing, I'm doing research on other players. I'm recognizing, okay, a tryout is coming up. How did the team perform last year? Did they win? Are they losing players? Did they have a lot of veteran guys in the defense? Recognizing those specific things, if you really want to excel, it's very important to do a bit of research, along with obviously preparing yourself technically. Yeah.
We've talked about it a lot. Is there anything you feel like we've kind of maybe skipped over through your career or your experiences? Anybody that made an impact directly, or that you kind of looked at in their direction and
It's a long list. Where do I start? Like I said, first of all, God, just give me the ability to do it. I don't take it for granted. I've had surgeries, I've had injuries, and so I know without Him, without the breath in my lungs, like I won't be able to do it. Let me see if I can do this quickly. Let me see if I can list 4 to 6 coaches. My dad, first of all, for introducing me to the sport, for taking me along. My first soccer coach, Anthony Wickham, back in Trinidad. My high school coach, Nigel Grosvenor, at St. Anthony's. He was a big help in terms of getting me ready to attend college with the SATs, the academics, just having that side of it. Jeff Alder at college, at Liberty. Dean Short as well. He played Dean Short, Adrian Madero. Just a support system from those that coaching staff. My national team coach, Zoran Ranish, Hudson Charles. You're gonna get me in trouble, I said. there's so many coaches now. Like, no, I mean, I cannot put it all because I'm gonna miss someone.
Well, even if you didn't list their name, I think they catch on that
Exactly.
the impact we've gone through every year.
Right.
The impact that they made on you. So.
Yeah. It's in terms of players, I grew up watching. I know you're a Liverpool fan, but I grew up watching Arsenal. It impacted me in terms of their playing style. They were a team that, especially under the Arsene Wenger time period, they were known for their creative style, keeping the ball, combination passes, and so I adopted that in my philosophy. And I tell players, take a touch. Don't just kick the ball away. Don't just make the first pass. You can make the best pass. So it may mean you have to dribble first and then find a second or third player. So the creativity aspect of it, I think Arsenal Soccer Club was a big driving force in how I play. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else? I mean, we could sit here all day.
Exactly.
I think that's a good wrap. But how do you feel? What direction is your academy gonna go in? Let's cap it off with that.
So right now I coach players from the ages, let's say 7 onward. And I tell parents I'll coach a kid as long as the kid wants to improve. I don't want my academy to be just like a daycare. I say it jokingly, but it's honest. I can coach players who want to be helped. Let's just say that. But my long-term goal is to continue to provide an environment where players can come and improve their skills. I know a lot of times in the team environment, players simply become another number, and they lose the developmental skills or even the tactical approach to the game. And so I want my academy to be an outlet, independent of high school club teams, where players know that they are lacking in this area and they can come, whether it's first touch, passing, shooting, whatever it is, to know that when they come to my academy, it's not just my curriculum. It's really based on what the player needs.
That's how I do mine too.
Right.
Yeah, you have to tier it towards what the players need at the current time.
Exactly. So yeah, long term I'd like to establish and get a facility, an indoor-outdoor facility, present an opportunity for kids to, even after school, where they come and do their homework, get their stuff done, and for example, if their parents are working until 5:30 or 6, they know that their kid is in a safe environment, completed their academics, and also got their soccer training done. But yeah, just try to continue what I'm doing right now.
Awesome. I appreciate it, and I know all the other people that watch this will too.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, man.
Welcome. No problem.